Continuing on, I got the intake off, and I'm getting ready to get the turbo off of there. I got to get the header off, and then I can get the head off, and that's going to be the last thing I do today. It's New Year's Eve, about 8 o'clock. I'm tired from working all day. So we're going to get this thing apart. Never understand these turbo drains. They're in an awful location. Fair. Lower the truck down. swear these are 17, but it ain't wanting to fit. Thing all apart. I already got it ready to swap the valve, but I'll show you guys how bad that valve had stretched. Oh, I hate this part. So this CX Racing elbow is threaded, but I put these lock nuts on the back just for extra measure to keep them from loosening up, because this, in order to get the turbos symmetrical with these headers, this turbo on this side has 2 1/2-inch turbo flanges, and the other side has none. It bolts directly to the elbow. So it basically brought this turbo over 1 inch, and that lined it up. They're not mirrored turbos, and it probably, I could have made it look halfway similar, but that was just the easy route to go to try to get some kind of symmetrical look. kind of a pain in the butt. It's kind of one of the major downfalls, I guess you could say, turbo builds. You got to deal with all the extra steps. Nitrous combo is as simple as unplugging some wires and pulling an intake manifold. That's probably one of the coolest things about nitrous. There's a lot of downsides though. Breaking crankshafts and rods because you're hammering them too hard, too fast. That's definitely a downside. I think I'd like to go to a smaller headed bolt this time, just to make this whole assembly easier. Maybe I will. These things got a 17 head metric bolt. Wouldn't be hard to find something the same thing in a cap screw or a 15 millimeter head. It's really not so much, it's really just this one side too. The other turbo is pretty easy to do because it don't have the spacers and longer bolts. That longer bolt, bolt number 2. And I'm pretty confident that this one right here is actually just a stud. This isn't a bolt. Technically, I should have been able to just unscrew the nut. Take the turbo right off. That's why I went to the stud and nut theory. Save myself all this headache. Loose. How it should come. It's 475. Out of there. There's that spacer I was telling you. It's just two spacers together to make it 1 inch out. I don't know why, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. Alright, now we need to find 5/16. 5/16 for the header bolts. Did I ever tell you guys the story of what I paid for these headers originally? I had no welder, wanted to go turbo, had a friend that was a good welder, working for a shop, had never done business with the shop, but I knew him and I knew he could weld real well. So I bought a Stainless Works 304 stainless steel small block Chevy header weld kit. At that time, turbo headers were about $1,800 for 304 steel stainless. Didn't look like they'd work for me as far as fitment goes with the steering column and all that. So I figured, you know, rather than pay $1,800 to buy headers I have to modify, I just paid my buddy, you know, to build me some headers because he knows how to weld. And these are the same headers. I've never had to weld a crack, never had to weld anything on them. These headers have had turbos hanging on them their whole life from day one. Had a S488 in the front on a wide pipe, all the way on the turbo. 8 years street driving, bouncing around. Never had to weld a header once. These twin turbos, 50 pounds a piece, 45 pounds a piece, hanging off of them. Never had to weld a header once. So Stainless Works steel, very good steel. Very glad I bought their weld kit for the tubes. Anyway, so I pay the shop, you know, it's like, hey, how much would you charge me to build these headers? I'll supply the materials, and I want to build a turbo kit for my S10. I know that I can buy them for $1,800 and then modify the one tube around the steering, but I just figured might as well start from scratch. I was like, oh, we could probably make those into headers for, you know, $1,800. It's like, well, figured $1,800 and I'm gonna have to pay to have them modified. So in reality, I was saving money, I thought. Not having to modify them was a pretty big deal, you know. And they're going to be custom to the truck, which is awesome. Because I knew he was great at what he did. I just didn't know the shop he worked at and how they did things. I didn't find out until after. But he does the turbo kit, busts his butt, gets it done fairly quickly. Everything's great. They call, hey, you can come get your truck, everything's done, looks real good. He kept sending me pictures of updates and all this stuff. It's like, damn, just knocked it out of the park. Great. So I go there, getting ready to write the check for my $1,800 headers. And they're like, oh, that's, the headers are, that kit was more than what we told you because the time involved to do it, we had to pull him off the race car for almost a week. And I'm like, okay, a week? That's 40 plus hours to build 2 headers. I don't see that being possible, but okay, I'll give you that. And then they're like, well, plus the materials. I was like, what materials? I supplied the materials. I bought the header kit. What materials? So they're saying, well, the shop supplies and all that stuff. I was like, what? We said $1,800. Where are you going with this? So they told me that my headers were going to be, I can't remember the original price, guys. I'm not even trying to exaggerate the price. I want to say he tried to tell me it was going to be like $7,000. That didn't fly at all. So I was like, you told me $1,800. That's what we agreed upon to do the job. If there was going to be an extra expense, somebody should have picked up the phone and said something, because I would have never agreed to it. I would have just came and got my truck. They're like, well, it's already done now. I was like, well, that's your problem. I never agreed to that. I agreed to $1,800. That's what we agreed on. And they're like, well, we can't, there's no way we could have done it for that. I'm like, dude, I supplied the materials. All you had in it was the time. And you're trying to tell me that you had that kind of time in it? I was like, I'm not going to argue with you, dude. I said, I'm here to get the truck. And they said, well, you can't take the truck. You're either going to pay the bill or we're going to get a mechanics lien on the truck. I was like, I'll tell you what. You go ahead and call and try to get your lien. You're going to be knocked out and laying on the floor before you wake up and realize that this truck's not sitting here anymore. So what you going to do about it? I was like, because I'm not paying that. So anyway, they beat around. Finally came to an agreement. Guys, I ended up paying $4,000. $4,000. And I got the receipt in the glove box of my truck. Because I'll never forget paying that much for these fucking headers. So $4,000 later to get these headers made. I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with a shop like that, but that's the worst business practice you could ever do to a customer. And then I found out they were having other people's projects in there, telling them, oh, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. There was guys coming in there all the time getting work done. It was a popular shop. And they were gouging guys by 10 grand over what they quoted. Needless to say, the shop's no longer here. They probably end up getting sued. Had to close their doors. They still don't have a shop. There's nothing in their name. They were a popular shop. I'm not even going to say their name. But, I mean, my friend is still my friend. He didn't do anything wrong. He built the turbo kit. He did exactly what I asked him to do. And he did an excellent job. I've had 0 issues out of it. I would pay him tomorrow to do the exact same work. And when he wasn't there, when I went to get the truck, he was actually on vacation. He left right the end of that week for vacation. Ironically, it was the same time that I had to go pick up the truck. He had no clue. He didn't know that they were trying to do that. And I called him when I was there and said, dude, do you know what the hell they're trying to do to this? And he's like, no. He's like, I'm on vacation. I didn't know anything about anything. I was like, dude, they're trying to make me pay $7,000 for these headers. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm like, exactly. He's like, no. They agreed upon $1,800, and that should be your price. I said, that's what I told him. And he agreed. He's like, dude, that's what they told you. That's what it should be. But it wasn't. And I still ended up paying $4,000 plus. Horrible. But I love my headers. When they were single turbo, I chopped them up, turned them into twin turbo headers, and still to this day haven't had no problem. But tell you what, guys, you gotta watch them shots. That's crazy money. Crazy money for a set of headers. So has any of you guys ever had to deal with a shop like that? Can't find my little socket. The little ratchet. There it is. My snap-on ratchet's dead. I don't know what happened, but it don't ratchet anymore. There's the door. It's by far the worst bolt. Inside header tube. That's it. Better be gone. And then there was a head. Gotta undo my engine diaper straps. It's a pain in the butt. That one's off. Take this crossover off. This is my water line that goes up to the top of the motor from the middle of the intake valves or exhaust valves. Takes them up to the top. Because if you don't know and you try to push a bunch of boost, small block Chevys, the exhaust valves are one right on top of the other. So the easiest way to screw one up is not get adequate cooling on those two exhaust valves. And the easiest way to prevent damage is to go ahead and put you some coolant flow right there at the valve. Big block Chevys are symmetrical like the LS. The LS motors, you don't have to worry about it. Trying to find my 1/2" 12 point. Tomorrow I'm going to be working on the Blazer and the S10, trying to get the S10 back together and the Blazer engine together. So I'm going to be out in the garage pretty much all day videoing. I had a 1/2" 12 point. I used it on this side, but I hurt the guy. There he is. So I got a 1/2" 12 point. Break all these head bolts loose. Feel like I just did this. Oh man, I gotta take my. I gotta get my rocker stands off first. They're 12 point also. I think they're 5/8 12 point. Straight. In case you're wondering, down here in Southwest Florida, still in the 80s during the day. Had a couple cold nights. Definitely not that crappy Ohio weather where you don't want to go out in your garage all winter because it's 0 degrees out. Snow's blocking the door. Definitely not like that anymore down here. I'm actually out here in the garage at nighttime and still sweating. Would I like it to be a little bit cooler? Yeah. Or would I like it to be snowing? Fuck no. Not a bit. I've had that snow my whole life. And I don't miss it. I will trade snow for sand any day of the week. Here's how the shafts, if you guys want to see them. You got bolts where the old rocker studs go, and then you set your pad height with the shims, and that sets your rocker height, so you don't really have a whole lot of adjustment on the height. And the way this was, I actually tried to re-shim them to be able to run no lash caps, and the rockers were hitting the bodies, and there's really absolutely no way to do it. You can't shim them because it pushes the rocker off of the tip of the valve, and they're only 8mm valves, which means you have a very small window to hit with a roller tip. And the only real way to do it is to get taller valves, and these are already 100 tall. So I didn't want to have to get a 200 tall valve, because what I need is a 200 tall valve actually. If I did a 200 tall, I could do the -50 keeper. It would raise my installed height to 2-inch, which is still fine with the springs I run. I run a big block Chevy valve spring, so that wouldn't have been no big deal. And then it would also let me run more spring, like more camshaft, if I wanted to. I don't want to change the cam. I actually like the cam I got, but it would give me another 50 thousandths of room before coil bind. Right now I'm running them at a 50 to 60 thousandths window before coil bind. Soon, bud.
Nice one.
Thank you, buddies.
Yeah. How's that going?
I've almost got the head off. Just messing with it. They take the rocker stands off, and then I can pull the head off. This is my last rocker stand right here. What are you doing? Making holes in the body?
I already had holes in the body.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I used my knife.
Really?
Yeah, poke holes through it and then made it sort of smooth.
Sort of smooth?
Yep.
Alright. Now it's time to untorque a head.
Couldn't I glue the hood down and then paint it?
Hey, what do you mean?
I don't need the hood to open. I was just seeing if I could glue the hood down and have it solid and then paint it. So I don't have to paint it separately.
I don't know. I would assume, yeah.
I need like super glue or something.
Just undoing this the same way I torque it. I'm sure many of you guys have torqued a cylinder head. Alright, there's that. She's untorqued. Now I can get my air over here and clip all the head bolts off of the nuts. Air ratchet. This has undercut head studs. Alright, almost got it off. Let's get these lower ones off real quick. These aren't tight at all. I'm just running out of air. So it looks like they're tight. I'm just going to get my washers off.
You want upstairs to eat? I ordered Domino's.
Oh yeah? So I'm just trying to get off the studs that I can. I know the ones down in the head are hard to get to. Generally, they're not really an issue with pulling the head. But if you had enough of these on there, it would be make it kind of difficult on yourself. Alright, there's a lot of ones. If I just knew what I did with my little magnet. Alright. Getting ready to lift her right now. Make sure I got everything out of the way. Nothing's attached. Alright. There it is. Pop this intake valve out. Hey guys, you might not believe this. That intake valve is not only tuliped, it's bent. So, probably started beating itself out around, which, if I was a betting man, I might have to say that she might have some weak springs. As bad as I would hate to say it, they don't have a lot of time on them, but it sure would look that way. Trying to dry the cylinders out. I'll blow them out before I go upstairs too. I hate leaving water in the bores. Motor's too nice. Sit around and let that water start rusting in the bores. Yeah, there's no marks on the piston anywhere. Just bent her up a little. And it's minute, like it would almost come out. I just don't know if I want to risk it or if I want to cut it. It'll be alright. She'll come out. I just need a little punch. Go. Just minimal effort. Don't want to make the problem worse. She's showing with a little effort. Absolutely bent though. Alright. Yep. Plain as day. Alright, get this down here so you guys can all see it. Move this camera. So, if you're looking, what you're looking for, to see that seat ring. See this side, see right there? That light side wasn't touching. Now it's all dark. And if you watch the ring, it's high on one side, then it's dropping down, then it's real low. The valve was bent. Now, let me go get the new one. Hang on one sec. Set you on this valve. Okay. Alright. Now, these two guys, side by side, you can tell they're both on a flat surface. Right? Flat surface, nothing's under them. You can tell it's taller by about 50 thousandths. You can also kind of tell, I don't know if I pull back, that it's leaning. It's not actually leaning, it's bent. So it was a good catch. That would have been a valve failure. Would have ate the piston, probably would have went and ate some more holes. I'll tell you another way we can show you. Let me get my dial calipers. I'll set this camera back up on a stand. Let you guys check this out while I check this out. Alright. So you sit right there. Dial calipers are right here. New valve is a that's the new valve. Square as I can make it. 520. I'm not moving the dial. Won't go in. So I gotta open her up. She's sitting about 565. 565. About 560. Now there's no way to know. Now we're at 580. See, there's no way to know what side's the stretch side, but it's absolutely stretched. It was absolutely bent, and I kind of feel like I absolutely dodged a bullet, because that would have been very, very nasty destruction. And actually, I can tell, man, it's crazy. I can see this valve. I don't know if you can see it on this camera. Can you see that tip? Does this right here? I know it's hard to see. Yeah, wow. Now I wish I would have caught that when I caught the other one that broke the tip off. Because you know what this is telling me, guys? That other valve broke the lash cap. Not because the lash cap. We were all suspected that it was a lash cap issue with these new lash caps. I've had the old lash caps for years and years and years. It's never been a problem. Now all of a sudden I got lash caps breaking right and left. So what that's telling me is not only did this intake valve stretch and bend, that's the whole reason that it happened. The other valve came up, bent over. When it bent over, it forced the lash cap to break. Rocker arm got behind it, snapped the tip right off of it. Guarantee you that other valve had already bent, already stretched. I didn't catch it. Luckily, it didn't drop. It got locked up in the hole Never even touched the piston. I got very lucky. But now I'm seeing this. I'm almost positive that's what's going on. So, needless to say, after Streetcar Takeover, and maybe before that, it's going to be time for another valve job. It's the only way around it. I hate to do it. I don't want to spend the money. I don't even have the money. This is already more money than I planned on spending. But, I mean, what's more money? Preventative maintenance and a valve job, or completely rebuilding an entire engine, possibly crankshaft heads and all. So it's going to have to be what it's going to have to be, and I'm going to have to eat it. But you can even see, if you look, see how flat that valve is? See that tulip at the top? The valve is almost round down there on the base instead of flat. Another way to look at it, if you look at it this way, there's a definite dish, and it's kind of pulling in the center. If you compare it to a new one that's flat, see how that one's just flat and this one's got a big dimple pulling in? It's trying to pull the valve right off the tip. That's what it's basically doing. That's why it's called tuliping. Trying to create a tulip out of a valve by stretching it. So that's where we're at. All apart, and I told you I'd show you, and that's where we got to. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'm gonna go get cleaned up and eat some dinner. Happy New Year. Hope you get to set off lots of stuff and make some explosions and do some burnouts. I look forward to seeing them. Tag me in them if you do some. Alright guys, see you later.